If you want to understand why the children in our Amish homes in Lancaster County almost never need a doctor through the long winters, while children down the road are sick from September to April without a break, do not look at their bloodlines and do not look at any bottle on a shelf. Look at what is stirred in the kitchen every single morning. Welcome, friends. I am glad you are here today. What families like mine prepare 3 times each day may be the most overlooked health conversation in this country. When your grandchildren fall sick, your doctor will hand you a prescription before you finish sitting down. Ask about the foods your grandmother prepared from childhood, and the appointment will already be closing. The system was simply not built around food, and traditional kitchen practices never made it into the guidelines. What I am about to share has kept 12 children healthy under my roof through seasons and sickness, and I want to give it to you as completely as I can. My name is Rebecca Yoder. I was born and raised in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and for 65 years I have cooked and kept house the way my mother taught me and her mother before her. No certificate on my wall. What I carry is something the English cannot find in a textbook. My grandmother told me when I was a young girl that all illness begins in the belly. She did not mean the stomach alone. She meant the whole inner territory, where the body decides what is friend and what is threat. That teaching has held across 5 generations of our women, and the world's researchers are slowly arriving at the same understanding. The belly governs how well you fight illness, how quietly your joints rest through the night, how steady your mood sits each morning, and how deeply your body sleeps. My grandmother watched this across her entire life. She needed no laboratory. My mother raised 9 children. Her mother raised 11. Across 5 generations here in Lancaster County, our women rarely watched their children lose whole winters to illness the way surrounding families often did. Researchers from outside came to our county some years back, curious about our health patterns. They left with full notebooks and a great deal they had not expected. What they found carefully measured, our grandmothers had been watching quietly for over a century without needing to write it down. One of the foods I am going to share today will surprise nearly everyone who hears it. 9 out of 10 people eating a version of this food are eating the wrong kind entirely, the kind that carries none of what your body is hoping for. The order of these practices matters as well. Each one builds on what came before. Stay with me until the end, because the last practice I share is the one our women have handed to their daughters across every generation, and it is the one most worth waiting for. Before we go further, I want to ask something of you. Leave me a comment below. Tell me your age, and tell me what you have tried for your digestion or your energy that has helped, and what has simply not. I read every single comment on this channel, and the questions you bring shape what I cover next. Today, I will show you the fermented vegetable our women prepare each September and eat through every cold month of the year. I will walk you through the slow-cooked liquid that rebuilds the gut lining and cushions the joints from within. I will share the leavened bread that feeds the good community in your belly rather than unsettling it. And at the end, I will give you the master morning practice, the single daily habit our grandmothers called the first gift of the day, the one that multiplies what every other food does. One small thing before we begin. If this kind of teaching is what you have been looking for, press subscribe. It takes 2 seconds, and it means the next time I share something from our kitchen, it will find you. I am asking because this channel was built for the seniors who deserve this conversation now. If you have spent time in an Amish household, you notice something that is hard to name the first time you see it. The grandmothers and grandfathers are present. They are at the table. They are in the garden. The children recover quickly from the coughs and fevers that other children carry for weeks. The women who are 70 and 80 still put up their own shelves of food each fall and carry their share of the work. What holds this picture together is not mystery. It is what comes out of the kitchen 3 times a day, prepared the way it has always been prepared. Our tradition has understood the body as a garden since before I can remember being taught anything else. What you put into the soil determines what grows above it. My grandmother said the belly remembers everything you feed it. Living food, food that is still working when it reaches you, teaches the belly to stay quiet and steady. Food that has been stripped, pressed, and held on a shelf for months teaches the belly confusion, and that confusion spreads into the joints, the head, and the mood that greets you each morning. Every food I am sharing today is a living food. It arrives at your table still carrying the work it began in the crock or the slow pot. Researchers who have studied our community have left with findings that matched what our grandmothers observed without ever writing a paper. Children raised on traditionally fermented foods showed measurably stronger immune responses than those raised without them. Our grandmothers would have simply nodded. They had watched this across every winter they could remember. There is something worth naming plainly here before we go further. After the age of 60, the number of beneficial organisms in the belly drops to nearly half of what it was at 40. This explains a great deal of what older bodies feel, but probiotics alone, the living organisms themselves, cannot do their work without two things: prebiotic fiber to feed them, and postbiotics, which are the actual healing compounds the bacteria produce once they are settled and nourished. Think of a garden. The seeds are the probiotics. The compost is the prebiotic. The fruit the garden produces is the postbiotic, and the fruit is what your body uses to heal and settle. All three must be working together, or the garden cannot bear. The first practice is lacto-fermented vegetables, and the distinction matters greatly. The vinegar pickled jars sold at most grocery stores are a different food entirely. Vinegar pickling ends all living activity. True lacto-fermented vegetables are made with nothing but salt and thyme, and the good bacteria rise on their own. Our women put up crocks of sauerkraut, fermented beets, and salt cucumbers each September. 1 small cup a day feeds the community of organisms in your belly that are responsible for calming the internal fire that drives so much of the joint pain and morning fatigue that older bodies carry. Let me pause here for just a moment, because this is the question my neighbors bring to me more often than nearly any other. They want to know what I recommend for those who cannot ferment at home or who are starting from a place where the belly has been struggling for years. What I have landed on is Buchbod. It is a kombucha gummy, not a pill, which matters because many of our older folks simply cannot tolerate capsules well. It carries all three parts together: prebiotic fiber, a probiotic culture through lactospore, and the postbiotics LM1004 postbiotic strain, the actual healing compounds your good bacteria produce. It also carries dandelion root, which our grandmothers in Lancaster County have dried and brewed since long before my mother was born. Over 30,000 people are using it now. The link is in the description below. And I will always say this: speak to your doctor before starting any supplement, particularly if you are managing a condition or taking a medication. The second practice is slow-simmered bone broth. Our women make it from beef knuckles and chicken carcasses simmered for 24 hours over low heat. Real broth cooked long enough to gel solid when it cools. That gel is collagen and gelatin, and it gives the gut lining the raw material it needs to hold together. A gut lining that holds does not send the body into constant alarm. 1 warm cup each morning or used as the base of your soups does more for the joints and the belly together than most things sold in bottles. The third practice is long fermented sourdough. The bread our women bake is fermented for 12 to 24 hours before it enters the oven. This long fermentation breaks down the compounds in grain that would otherwise block digestion and prevent the body from absorbing the minerals in the food. The bread that comes from a properly made sourdough feeds the good organisms in your belly rather than disturbing them. I want to share now the words of a woman named Dorothy, 68 years old, a retired school teacher from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Dorothy had dealt with severe joint stiffness and persistent gut discomfort for 11 years. What was being overlooked entirely was that her daily food contained almost no fermented food at all, and her bread had always come from a commercial bakery. she switched to homemade sourdough, began eating lacto-fermented beets each day, and started making bone broth weekly. At the 8-week mark, her morning stiffness had reduced by roughly 65% by her own daily tracking, and her gut discomfort had dropped from daily to occasional. She wrote, "Rebecca, I spent 11 years looking everywhere else, and the answer was in the kitchen the whole time." She found her way back. If you are managing blood sugar, blood pressure, or taking blood thinners, please speak to your doctor before making changes to your daily food, even gentle, traditional ones. Your doctor deserves to be part of this conversation. And now we arrive at the practice our women have called the first gift of the day for as long as I have been alive. Every morning, before I eat, before I dress, I drink a warm cup of water with 2 tablespoons of raw apple cider vinegar and a small spoon of raw honey. My grandmother did this. Her mother did this. This practice reaches back through every generation of women in our community that I have been told about. Raw apple cider vinegar carries the mother, the living culture that settles at the bottom of the bottle, along with acetic acid, which prepares the stomach to produce the right amount of digestive strength before the first meal of the day. When the stomach is properly prepared, food breaks down fully, and what reaches the belly below nourishes the right organisms. When food is not broken down, it ferments badly inside the gut, and that bad fermentation is behind much of the heaviness and morning fog that older bodies carry. The raw honey adds prebiotic compounds that support the good organisms and carries a gentle quality that our grandmothers understood through generations of use. Researchers have since confirmed what the tradition has always known, that raw honey taken daily measurably supports beneficial gut bacteria and reduces markers of internal inflammation. Our grandmothers simply called it the morning gift. The most meaningful account I can share of this practice belongs to a man named Harold, 74 years old, a retired carpenter from Savannah, Georgia. Harold had not had a clear morning in 8 years. Heavy fog, persistent gut discomfort, nothing lasting from any prescription. What had been entirely overlooked was that Harold began each day with 3 cups of strong coffee on an empty stomach, and had done so for over 40 years. He introduced the morning cup, added lacto-fermented vegetables at breakfast, and began drinking a cup of bone broth each afternoon. At the 10-week mark, his morning energy had improved by 71% by his own log. He wrote, "Rebecca, I feel like I have my mornings back for the first time in a decade." The morning cup gave him back something no prescription had reached. After 65 years of watching what holds in the body and what does not, here are 3 things worth naming plainly. First, consistency over quantity. 1 tablespoon of fermented vegetables each day for 3 months will serve your belly far better than a full jar eaten in a single week. The organisms need steady feeding, not occasional floods. Second, temperature matters with apple cider vinegar. Use warm water, not hot. Water above 140 degrees kills the living cultures. Warm water carries the medicine. Hot water carries only the sour. Third, buy the cloudy vinegar, not the clear. The clear kind has had the mother filtered away. Without the mother, the most important part is gone. 3 mistakes I see most often among those who try these practices and find they are not working. Mistake 1. Buying sauerkraut from a regular grocery shelf. If the jar is not refrigerated, the living cultures are gone. Pasteurization ends everything this food was meant to do. Mistake 2. Making bone broth and stopping at 2 or 3 hours. The collagen does not begin to release fully until the 16th hour at minimum. Short broth is a decent soup. Long broth is what rebuilds. Mistake 3. Beginning all the practices in the same week. The belly needs 1 new food at a time, introduced slowly. Give it the chance to receive each gift before adding the next. My friend, these foods are your mornings in the garden. They are the table you will still be sitting at, the walks you will still be taking, the grandchildren you will still be present for. Your body has not stopped listening, and it is never too late to begin feeding it the way it was designed to be fed, at 70, at 75, at 80. The body's capacity does not expire with age. You are the driver of this body, and the kitchen has always been the wheel. Let me pull this together for you. 1. The health our Amish community has carried across generations traces directly to daily kitchen practice built on living food. 2. Outside researchers who came to study what we eat left with findings that matched what our grandmothers had watched for over a century. 3. Lacto-fermented vegetables made with salt and thyme feed the organisms that calm internal inflammation. 4. Slow-simmered bone broth gives the gut lining and the joints what they need to stay intact. 5. Long-fermented sourdough feeds the good community in your belly rather than disturbing it. 6. The morning cup of warm water with raw apple cider vinegar and raw honey prepares the whole body to receive everything else at full strength. If this has been worthwhile, please subscribe and share this video with your spouse or with the oldest friend who has been struggling and not saying much about it. Leave me a comment and tell me which practice you are beginning first, or which one surprised you most. I read every single comment on this channel. For those who want to explore Buchbod, the link is waiting in the description below whenever you are ready. Be well, walk gently,